everything was completely compact. The kitchen was right next to Prabhupada's bedroom, which was right next to Prabhupada's massage and bathroom, which was right next to Prabhupada's darshan room. So we were all right there with Prabhupada all day and night. So he came to the kitchen and he looks at me and he said, "Who's making all of these extra preparations?" And I told him the names of the devotees, very nice devotees. And he said, "Tell them they can cook for me, but no ghee." So polite. It means, yes, you can cook for me, but... So when I told them the next morning when they came, Prabhupada's message, they got angry. They said, "How can we cook without ghee?" And then they left. So then there was another devotee, because while serving Prabhupada, there's like a band. Here's your regular day cooking for Prabhupada, doing everything as you know Prabhupada likes without any disturbance. And then the band is people coming who want to give him special things, and you refusing the devotees because you know it's going to cause a disturbance to Prabhupada. So how are you going to behave? So this is one of the most important things that Srila Prabhupada taught me, that I've learned how to use in all of the services that I do, whatever it is, beyond cooking, beyond cleaning, everything. So one very sincere disciple of Prabhupada, he wanted to cook for Prabhupada desperately, but there was already a cook. But that didn't stop him. He still wanted to cook for Prabhupada. So he would come in regularly and push me to the side, and he would make the chapatis for Prabhupada. Although Prabhupada had just taught us a few days before how he wanted his chapatis made. But he wanted to make the chapatis for Prabhupada. So I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but at the same time, the way he made the chapatis wasn't the way Prabhupada ate them. So after about 3 days, Prabhupada again comes to the kitchen, and he said to me, "Don't put milk in my chapatis." I said, "Prabhupada, I would never put milk in your chapatis. So-and-so is coming every day, and he's learned how to make chapatis from so-and-so, a Gujarati life member, and he insists on making your chapatis every day." So, so this was the lesson I had to learn. That if we know that something's not going to please Prabhupada, we have to put our foot, we have to say, "I'm sorry, this is not the way Prabhupada likes things for devotees." But at the same time, we have to allow devotees to serve Prabhupada, because there was another servant of Prabhupada, and this was a lesson that so many of us learned from. Very sincere servant of Srila Prabhupada, who wanted to do absolutely everything for Srila Prabhupada. Everything. He didn't want anyone else to do anything for him. He wanted to cook, he wanted to be secretary, he wanted to do everything. He wanted Prabhupada all to himself. So we had never served before together, because you get to know all of Prabhupada's servants as you're traveling around with him. He would rotate his servants. Sometimes they would run away, sometimes there would be a problem. Sometimes he would give them sannyas and send them away, different things like that. So finally, again in Bombay, he comes with Prabhupada. And he didn't know me, and that I had already been cooking for Prabhupada for like a year or two, like that. He said to me that day, "Today I'm going to teach you how to cook for Prabhupada." So he comes into the kitchen and he's showing me everything, and I'm keeping my mouth shut because I don't want to upset him. And of course, when there are two people in the kitchen, everything was late. So I bring the plate in, and Prabhupada says to me, "Why is everything late?" And I looked at Prabhupada, I said, "Well, so-and-so is teaching me how to cook." He's teaching me how to cook chapatis. So Prabhupada says, "Neither of you know how to make chapatis. I will teach you both." So then Prabhupada stands up, he comes in the kitchen, he has us watch him, he shows us how to make chapatis for him, and then he tells us, "Now you make one chapati a minute and bring them in hot." You know. So the next day, Prabhupada's having his massage just 10 feet away from the kitchen, and I have to go get something. So I have to walk past Prabhupada. Or maybe he called me, I can't remember. He's having his massage, and he says to me, "I have told so-and-so that you already know how to cook." So, but that wasn't, that didn't satisfy the other person. He wasn't happy about that. He wanted me out of the kitchen, right? He wanted to cook for Prabhupada. And at the same time, there was the other brahmachari who wanted to cook for Prabhupada, who was making the chapatis. So suddenly a telegram came from Delhi that, "Please send pujari. We have no pujari for Radha Parthasarathi." There were very few devotees in India at the time. So that was the perfect plan. Send her to Delhi, and then we'll cook. So that night, we got a message, "You go to Delhi." Next morning, didn't even say goodbye to Prabhupada, because Prabhupada knew everything. We just left for Delhi to become the pujari there. And 15 days later, the number one servant who was with Prabhupada, who wanted to do everything for Prabhupada, he came with Prabhupada to Delhi. And the first thing he did was, he offered his dandavats to me. And it wasn't like him at all. So I offered my dandavats back. He said to me, "I'm so sorry I sent you away." He said, "As soon as you left, everything fell apart." He said, "I didn't know, I thought you were just cooking. I didn't know that you were washing the pots, you were doing the marketing, you were cleaning the house, and he said, as soon as you left, nobody was doing any of those things anymore." So, they just wanted to do one thing, but they couldn't see the whole picture, right? Then he said, because before Prabhupada arrived, we had bought all beautiful new things for Srila Prabhupada, marble and stone, and little covers to put on top of all the katoris so nothing would get cold, and a night plate, a day plate, and everything was just so beautiful. We redid Prabhupada's whole apartment. This is not his one that he has now. We made everything like Vrindavan. We put beautiful paintings and curtains and rugs, everything. And when Prabhupada walked in, he said, "It's just like Vrindavan." He was so happy. So he said, "After you left, every day I broke one of the cups." Because they were all made of stone. He dropped one of the cups every single day till there were no more cups left. And then finally we had gotten this amazingly beautiful bowl made out of stone for Prabhupada's shukta, because Prabhupada would have shukta every single day. He had to have shukta with the Karila. He said, "Finally, on the last day, I broke the shukta bowl." So, and then he explained to me that the other devotee was there also. So they split up the services, so they would each get a chance to serve Prabhupada. But neither of them wanted each other there. So there was a personality conflict. And they were both trying to get the other one out. So one of them was cooking and the other one was massaging. And there was one plug, and that plug, when you plugged in the hot water heater for Prabhupada's bath, it would make the sink in the kitchen electrocuted, so they couldn't touch the sink. So the one who was cooking would say, don't plug the water heater in that plug. But the other one, because he knew that it was disturbing that one, made sure to plug the plug in. So finally it came to a head, and right in front of Prabhupada, they attacked each other. And they started having a fist fight. And Prabhupada this is in Bombay, Prabhupada had to physically separate them. This devotee was telling me what happened. He had to physically separate them. And he gave them the golden rule, that you should never do a service that causes inconvenience to other service, to other devotees' service. So what Prabhupada finally did was, to solve the personality conflict, he made one of them into a sannyasi and sent him to Africa. And the other one was just waiting until Prabhupada sent him away also, but that happened a little later, much more furiously here in Vrindavan. So, a very important lesson that we all have to learn. Never do a service that's going to cause inconvenience to another devotee's service. So before we do something, we always have to look and see, is this going to cause an inconvenience to another devotee? And then we have to adjust it so that we don't inconvenience the other devotees. Right? Is that clear to everybody? Very important lesson if you want to stay in Krishna consciousness. Okay? Because Prabhupada's not here to physically separate us. Now sometimes, this Tejas told me, there was our BBT in charge, who was Gopal Krishna, and there was the traveling library party, who was run by Gargamuni. And Gargamuni, he would take sets of books from the BBT and distribute them all over India in his vans and buses. But he wouldn't pay the bill to BBT. So BBT can't run unless the devotees pay for their books. So finally, Gopal Krishna had to stop the book supply. And Prabhupada was in Delhi, and they both met to talk with Prabhupada about what should be done, because the BBT in charge wanted the traveling Sankirtan party to pay, and the traveling Sankirtan party wanted the books without payment, because you can't pay until you've distributed the books, right? Especially when you're on traveling Sankirtan. So finally, they went into a room, and Prabhupada was in the room next door. And Tejas was in the room with Prabhupada. And they start to argue, the two of them. Finally, one of them punches the other one in the nose. And the one says, "You broke my nose, I'm bleeding!" And then they continue to fight. And Tejas looks at Prabhupada. "Prabhupada, aren't you going to do anything?" And Prabhupada says, "Let them fight it out." So sometimes Prabhupada would also do that. Amongst his leaders, he would let them fight it out. So two different, the spectrum, you know, there's one side, there's the other side. Sometimes Prabhupada would personally break up the fight, sometimes he would let them fight it out. But we, because we're in the middle, we have to decide what we're going to do. If we remember that rule, to not cause inconvenience to others when we do our service, think before we do something. Is this going to cause any problem for anybody else? Then it won't come to these extremes of fist fights and nose breaks and nosebleeds and all these stuff. No, because we fought with consideration first about the other devotee. So finally what happened to this one devotee, one of them was given sannyas and sent to Africa. The other one, finally, Prabhupada, very long story, but ultimately he also gave him sannyas and sent him to Europe to preach. So when we are serving the spiritual master particularly, we have to be very, very careful and very conscious of the other devotees who are serving, because it takes a lifetime to finally get that opportunity to do service for your spiritual master. And if you haven't learned these simple principles of efficiency of time and consideration for the other devotees who are serving, then you're going to commit offense and you're going to have trouble in your spiritual life. Okay? So I hope that helps all of you. Okay, so these were some of the lessons I learned from Prabhupada. Now, because Prabhupada, without my asking for it, Prabhupada gave me instructions what he wanted me to do. This was in Mayapur, at that time when yesterday I was explaining that the GBCs wanted me to go back and collect, and I said I just wanted to distribute books. So then Prabhupada gave a whole list of what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to see that his books were stocked and distributed in Mayapur and Vrindavan. He wanted me to put his books in all the schools and libraries in India. He wanted me to put his books in all the embassies in India. And he started to personally teach us how to do these things. So those were lifetime instructions that because normally what you do is you go and you beg from Prabhupada, can I want to do what Prabhupada wanted me to do? And I took it as a lifetime commitment to do that. How to carry out these instructions. And where we ended yesterday was my husband wanted to go back to America to join with preaching there. But I had these instructions now from Srila Prabhupada that I felt I had to make my life mission. So I said, all right, you want to go back to America? Fine. I'll stay here and do what Prabhupada told us to do. So the first place I wanted to start, because it was the first thing Prabhupada said, was in Mayapur. Because in those days, it was 1975, 1976, there was only the Lotus building, no other buildings on the property practically. They were building the long building, but it wasn't nearly ready, it's just starting. So when I went there to stay, to do this service, I saw that they had no book tables. So I spoke to the GBC, I said, let's make a book table in the temple. We have it in Vrindavan, it's very nice, the people buy all kinds of books, it's a great way to preach, and it's a way to stock and distribute Prabhupada's books. So immediately they built the book table, they put brahmacharis there, everything went fine. Then up in Prabhupada's quarters there was no book display, and you see we have book display here. So I asked again the GBC, let's remove some of these pictures. There was a big picture there that someone had painted, and let's put a book display of all of Prabhupada's books. I think it's still there in Prabhupada's rooms, yes. So yeah, all right, just needed someone to give them the idea, and they immediately did it. They had a big book display, we put all of Prabhupada's books there, and then those two things were done. Then we were going to start traveling and preaching, because they had the boat, they had bus parties, they had all these. No, he had gone back to America already. I was alone then. Huh? Oh, we. We means me and Super Soul. We. That's who we is. We is super soul. So then we got word, see we, that Prabhupada was very sick. He was here in Vrindavan, and because I had served Prabhupada here in Vrindavan, I immediately wanted to come back to Vrindavan to help with Prabhupada. So we couldn't continue more in Mayapur. We got those two projects done. So we came back here to Vrindavan and immediately started carrying on with what Prabhupada wanted done here, with the book distribution, with collecting for the different improvements, things like that, the construction for the Gurukula, all of that. So Prabhupada in the meantime had left, and I think he had actually gone to Mayapur. I missed him. Maybe he went to Rishikesh, wherever. When I got here, Prabhupada had just left. So, and then Prabhupada went to Mayapur. So I stayed here for some time with setting up the book distribution and whatever services were required. And then I thought, all right, now Prabhupada's in Mayapur, let me go there to Mayapur. But see, just like right now we're in lockdown, and none of us have gone out of the temple now for nearly 2 months, right? Correct? Right. Is anyone suffering? No. It's like Goloka Vrindavan here, isn't it? Yeah. So that was the way Prabhupada taught us how to live in Vrindavan. Exactly as we're living now, that's how it was when Prabhupada was present here. We never left the temple. There was no reason to leave the temple. We had so much service to do that we were always here in the temple, and some, guests would come, but not like they come now. Some guests would come, but mostly it was all devotees here. And it wasn't that many devotees. Maybe maximum 50 devotees were here to run the whole project. So, no. We never did. We didn't have time to do any of those things. That's why I thought, all right, I'm going back to Mayapur now. I've never gone anywhere. And I always wanted to see Barshana, right? Oh, I was thinking, well, if only I could just one time have Darshana Barshana. So I was going to go buy my ticket in Mathura, go to Mayapur. I thought, all right, that day I'll just go to Barshana, take darshan, and then I'll go. I deviated. Right? So I went to Barshana, and there in Barshana, I saw a beautiful temple, and because no foreigners had been traveling, they didn't see foreigners. And by that time I knew a little Bengali, I knew a little Hindi, so we could speak. So they said, well, why don't you come and serve here in the temple? So I thought, wow, I get to serve in Radharani's temple. I mean, because they were so amazed to see a foreign devotee who could speak their language, who knew all Vaishnav etiquette, because Prabhupada had taught us everything. So they gave me an opportunity. They gave me garland making to do. They gave me kitchen seva to do. I was allowed to go in Radharani's kitchen. And it was like, this is beyond belief. How can I give it up? So rather than going to Mayapur, I went and stayed there. For as long as they let me serve, I continued to serve there. And I was learning so much there. Learning so many things about the inside service there in the Laliji temple. Because they didn't let people in, So I knew I was doing the wrong thing, because I knew how strict Prabhupada was. But I also couldn't give up the opportunity. So this went on for some time. I never made it back to Mayapur. I stayed there, serving there, and then the newspaper came. It came in the newspaper that Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami was very ill. He had come back to Vrindavan, and he was preparing to enter Samadhi. So then I had to come see Prabhupada. Although I was very afraid to come see Prabhupada because I had been doing something without his permission. So I came to see Prabhupada. And this was in August of 1977. And Prabhupada wasn't seeing devotees then. He would only come out 1 hour a day for darshan. You can see him, if you go upstairs, you'll see his rocking chair. They would carry him out. He would take Charanamrita. He would sit under the tamal tree, and the Gurukul boys would dance in front of him, and the other devotees would sing kirtan. And then other than that, Prabhupada would just be here in his quarters. And he especially wasn't seeing any women. So, really no chance for me to see Srila Prabhupada, though I came to see him. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj was here. And I didn't know Tamal Krishna Maharaj. We always served in different continents. But he decided that I had to see Srila Prabhupada because he wanted to make sure that I didn't go back to Varsana, that I just stayed now. So he asked Srila Prabhupada that Srila Prabhupada speak to me. So Prabhupada was upstairs here on his veranda. And I went up to see Srila Prabhupada. I had brought Prabhupada some gifts from Varsana that the temple had given me to give to Prabhupada. Some bottle of Charanamrita, a whole container of laddus. They had made the things to give to Prabhupada as an offering. I put them in front of Prabhupada. He didn't even look at them. He just looked at me and he said to me, he said, "You should stay in our camp. You should not leave us." And then he said to me, he said, "You used to be my cook. You were a good cook. Just now I'm not eating, but when I feel better, you can cook for me." So by that time, Prabhupada hadn't been eating for about 6 months. And I looked up at Prabhupada and I saw his condition then. And I realized what a great offense I had committed by not being present in Prabhupada's condition. He was all just skin and bones. His hands and his feet were all swollen. And when I saw his condition, I felt terrible. I then understood I had committed a great offense because I wasn't present to help Prabhupada. So then, to encourage me more, Prabhupada said, "You used to be a good book distributor." And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, "Prabhupada, she has a different life now. And she might have to leave the country because we always had visa problems. She might have to leave the country because of her visa, and Prabhupada, you're also going." No, Prabhupada said, "I am also going. So she can come with me. And when I'm feeling better, she can cook for me." So then Prabhupada, because he was just leaving to go to London and then New York, and then he had a whole plan where he was going. So then I had my next assignment from Prabhupada that I should go where he was going, then I could cook for him when he was feeling better. So that's the way Prabhupada was. He tried every way possible to engage his disciples, to keep them in his service. So Prabhupada left a few days later, and then I left because Prabhupada told me to go, and my flight was directly to New York, and his flight was, he was going to London first, then he was going to go to New York. So I went to New York to help set up everything, get everything ready for him there. But Prabhupada was too sick to come on to New York. So he had to come back. And meanwhile, I was stuck in New York. I had to get a new visa, and they were very strict, and it took me some time to come back. So Prabhupada, he had his Antya Lila at that time, and I could get back in time. And I understood it was because of my offense of not being there when Prabhupada was sick. But as soon as I could, I came back, and I dedicated myself at that time to taking care, as I had done here previously when Prabhupada was present, taking care of his house and making this house for Srila Prabhupada like a living temple, as if when devotees came in, they could feel Prabhupada's presence. And that was right after Prabhupada left. And I fully dedicated myself to that. It was like from 1978 up until 1987. And we set up, because I was missing Prabhupada's service very, very much. So we set up for Srila Prabhupada at that time. Everything that Prabhupada did during his day, his whole daily schedule, we would do that for Srila Prabhupada. When he went out on his walk, when he had his meals, we were cooking 4 times a day. We would set out his massage mat, set out his bathing things, and eventually the murtis came, and we would do all of the worship for Prabhupada. So when the devotees came in, they could actually feel the presence of Srila Prabhupada, because everything was being done exactly as when he lived here. And it was a very powerful experience in Prabhupada's house at that time. Very wonderful experience. And it would have gone on for the whole rest of my life. And we set up the book table so that both things could go on. There was no book table when Prabhupada was present here, of course. Actually, there was no room there. It was just a veranda. And this little room was the first room. But then Tamal Krishna Maharaj wanted to make that into a room so a guard could be there, so that they could guard people, that people couldn't just come into the room where he was staying and the secretary was staying. So they made that into a room. So we made that into a preaching room, and that way both of the services could go on simultaneously. And then as the preaching expanded, because Prabhupada gave all of those instructions about in the schools and the libraries and the embassies, so then we decided to contact those places, because we were doing service here in Vrindavan. We would do everything by mail. So we set up mailing to all the schools and libraries and everywhere we could, so that we could distribute books by mail. And that was very, very successful. And we did all that right here in this room. We set this up as the temple office. We had all the packing going on and everything going on right here. It wasn't a library at that time. So, anyway, so the point is that the spiritual master, if he gives instructions, you should make those instructions as your life and soul. It's not that after the spiritual master leaves, then those instructions are null and void. You should continue with those instructions for your whole life and always be meditating on how to carry out those instructions. So that's how this library was built. Finally, we got an office in another place, and I requested that we make this into an international library, because Prabhupada wanted his books stocked and distributed here. So for all the international guests, we made this into a library with all the different languages. And then we set up a whole library here. We had a librarian. Devotees would borrow the books. You sign out, sign in. We had a whole library program going on right here in this room. And then the book distribution was going on like anything through the mail. We had the Bhishma department distributing so many books, also distributing sets of books to schools and libraries. So in that way, we were trying to do all the things that Prabhupada wanted us to do. And carrying on, and always trying to expand in Prabhupada's service that way. Never thinking that, well, Prabhupada's not here anymore, let me look for something else to do. No, just those instructions that Prabhupada gave us, we carry them on for life. And then finally, due to different circumstances, I had to turn over the Bhishma office, the Bhishma department, to other devotees, to younger devotees. I was getting old. I couldn't expand it to the extent that they wanted to. And they were also going way more from book distribution. I had done it for the book distribution. They were doing it more for the collection. So it was a different angle. So then, giving up the Bhishma department, I just set up a table, started distributing books. That expanded till we were able to make the matchless gift shop. And then we decided to do international book distribution here. So we wrote to all of the BBTs all over the world to get these books brought. So now, then they gave us a second global shop for this international book distribution. And now Vrindavan is practically the only temple in the whole world that has all of Prabhupada's books in all of the languages. And now the devotees come here to get their international books. And we get orders from all over the place to send books, because they know that we have stock of all of the books. For instance, we sponsored to get all the Arabic Bhagavad Gitas here so we can distribute them all over Asia. And we have all the Russian books. We get thousands and thousands of Russian books for all the Russian devotees who come here every year. So there's no limit. Once you get an instruction from your spiritual master, there's no limit to how far you can take it. Even if you're here in Vrindavan, you can expand through, just by sitting here, because traveling is very taxing. But now we can do through internet, we can do through mailing, we can do, because we have so many devotees coming here, we can do that way, have them take books, and in that way we can expand our book distribution unlimitedly, right here from Vrindavan, if one is sincere to just continue with the instructions of their spiritual master. So that's just one little devotee with just a few little instructions from Srila Prabhupada, trying to carry them out. And each one of you, you try to do the service of your spiritual master. So he'll bless you with instructions that you can carry out your whole life. And always meditate on what those instructions are, how you can increase, how you can improve, and how you can please your spiritual master. So this is just the one short story in the life of one very insignificant Mataji who just tried to, despite so many offenses, despite so many deviations, is still trying to carry out the instructions that Prabhupada gave her in 1974, right? And now it's 2020. So I beg all of you, there are only a few of you here, but if anyone else is listening, please take the instructions of your spiritual master as your life and soul, and always be meditating on how to carry them out and how to use every facility possible to please your spiritual master. And in my case, and I'm sure in many other devotees' cases, to increase book distribution. His spiritual master told him, if you ever get books, if you ever get money, print books. And his spiritual master, he was lamenting. He said, ever since we got this, what's it called? Bag Bazaar, yes. Ever since he got the Bag Bazaar, there's been fighting amongst the devotees. Who will get which room? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that he just wants to sell the temple, he wants to sell all the marble and use the money to print books. So it's not that he only instructed one little devotee to do this. This was Srila Prabhupada's instruction from his spiritual master. And I was just reading today in preparing for the classes, Prabhupada here in Vrindavan, and then Krishna told me, get out, go to America. And from there, but Prabhupada never once gave up the instructions or the orders of his spiritual master to preach in the English language, to distribute books. Therefore, he was always meditating. How could he print? Was the disappearance, say, of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, now I'm depending on all of you to help me. I'm an old man. So please, you help me with this book printing and this book distribution. So it's not that it's just one person got this instruction. This instruction is actually for every single follower of Srila Prabhupada, that we should assist him in the instruction that he received from his spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada, he took initiation in 1932, 33, and then his spiritual master left the world in 1936, December 31st. And just in the very beginning of December, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to his spiritual master saying that you have so many disciples who are serving you personally, your brahmacharis and your sannyasis, but I am a grihasta, I cannot serve you directly. Please give me an instruction so that I can serve you. And this was the instruction that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave him on December 13th, just 2 weeks before he left the world, that you should preach to the English-speaking people. This will benefit them, and this will also benefit you. So Srila Prabhupada, even after the disappearance of his spiritual master, was always meditating on this. It took him until 1944 before he started the Back to Godhead magazine. And then from there, he printed the Srimad Bhagavatam, Easy Journey to Other Planets. He wrote many other things that are being printed gradually, In Search of the Divine, like that. There were other books of and Perfection at Home. We have that book here that Prabhupada typed out. So Prabhupada was always meditating on his spiritual master's instructions. And we're all sitting here today because he took his spiritual master's instructions so seriously. So that same instruction, it's like a inheritance. We have inherited that instruction from Srila Prabhupada to help him with printing books and with distributing books. So we can, if we don't have that opportunity to get the personal instruction from our spiritual master, we have that universal instruction coming directly through the parampara to print books, to distribute our Guru Maharajas wherever we are. We help Srila Prabhupada in the instruction that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave to him by distributing his books. Okay, thank you very much. Please forgive me for all of my offenses. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Tomorrow I'd like to go back to Krishna book because it's more important that I just told my whole life saga right today in 1 hour, so there's nothing else to tell.
No, I want you can talk about Prabhupada, what Prabhupada was eating.
Oh, you want to know about what he was eating? I can tell you that now. Okay? Yeah, sure. Now, you remember I only know what Pishima taught me. I had two cooking masters. One was Pishima, and the other, it was here in Vrindavan, 1975, Srila Prabhupada's very dear friend, Vishwambar Dayal Bhagaji. Now he wanted to teach someone how to cook because he loved to cook for Prabhupada. So Prabhupada assigned one Mataji to learn how to cook from him, but she used to argue with him. He would teach her how to make eggplant sabji, and she would tell him, no, you have to peel the eggplant. We never give Prabhupada eggplant with the skin. So he went into Bhagaji went into Prabhupada. He said, I can't teach her. She's telling me what to do. Give me somebody else. So then Prabhupada gave brahmachari. So the brahmachari and Bhagaji used to come every day to the kitchen here for Bhagaji to teach the brahmachari, and I would be in the kitchen. You see how small the kitchen is. So the three of us would be in there together at the same time. And Bhagaji could only cook chapatis on a chula, on a coal stove. So one day, they forgot to make the coal stove. And Bhagaji almost had a heart attack because he couldn't make the chapatis for Prabhupada. And I told Bhagaji, I said, don't worry Bhagaji, I'll make the chapatis on the gas stove. And I quickly made the chapatis, and he brought them into Prabhupada, and he told Prabhupada, I want to teach her how to cook. So then Prabhupada, he assigned me to learn from Bhagaji. And then after about 1 month, Bhagaji was satisfied that I had learned, and Prabhupada called me up one night to his veranda, this veranda. Bhagaji was massaging Prabhupada's legs, and he had me sit down, and he said, you've learned, same thing, you've learned very nicely, now Bhagaji can rest, and now you cook. Right? So two cooks I learned from. So I don't know who cooked what, where, anywhere. I only know how these two cooks trained me. So in the morning, we would make for Prabhupada, we would take chira, wash it once, let it drain out the water, let it sit, milk. So Prabhupada would have hot milk, chira, dahi. Then we would, the night before, we would soak urad dal. We would hand grind the urad dal, and Pishima taught me how to make urad dal wada Bengali style, not the Maharashtra, not the Bombay style with the donut, you know. We'd make it Bengali style with all kinds of spices inside and ground up ginger and everything. Very nice. Like a bari. So we would make that, and then we would make fresh coconut. We'd have the coconut scrape. You can see that we'd scrape the coconut every morning. Fresh coconut chutney. She would teach me how to make, she taught me how to make that. And then we would have all the Mangalarti sweets that we had made. And then all different kinds of fruits. At least 5 different kinds of fruits, at least. So this was Prabhupada's breakfast. Wonderful breakfast. And on top of that, we would make special preparations sometimes. But that was the basic breakfast for Prabhupada. The chira had to be there, the hot milk, the dahi, the fruits, the urad dal wada, the coconut chutney, and the sweets. And then Prabhupada would mix everything on his plate, you know, however he wanted it. Then lunchtime, 1 o'clock, we would use his cooker. Before it was much more elaborate, but what Prabhupada wanted was, he wanted rice, he wanted dal, he wanted first-class chapatis, and varieties of sabjis. We would always have sukta, and we would always have karila. Those 2 things always had to be there, plus so many different kinds of other vegetables. And sometimes on festival days, we would make fried things, but not regularly because of Prabhupada's help. Just when there was a special occasion, we would make samosas or pakoras or things like this. Whatever anybody else did, I don't know. But this is the way Prabhupada ate when I cooked. Then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we would make juice for Prabhupada. And I would always have to taste the juice first to make sure that it wasn't sour, so there would be enough sugar in it. So we always had to taste that juice first. Then at nighttime, at 9 o'clock, we would have hot milk. And that hot milk, we would grind misri and pour it back and forth so it was all frothy with the misri in it, and make a nice glass of that for Prabhupada. And there would always be sandesh. We would put extra sandesh because while Prabhupada was translating at night, we would keep a bowl of sandesh for Prabhupada in case he got hungry. And we would make either kachori, or Bhagaji taught me how to make dry paratha. We would have paratha with dry began sabji. Sometimes we would make steamed apple. Bhagaji taught me that. Sometimes we would make muri. Sometimes we would just have papad, popcorn, cucumber, all different. There were night preparations. But the thing that Prabhupada liked the most, kachori. If you gave him 5 kachoris, they wouldn't be there. I don't know what happened to them, but they would all be gone. So mostly I would love to make kachoris for Prabhupada at night. So, and that was it, those 4 meals. Okay? Thank you. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes? Dal? He liked moong dal. Sometimes arahara, sometimes urad dal, but green, yeah, we would make varieties of dals.
Steamed apple without spices.
What?
Steamed apple was without spices.
Steamed apple, just steamed. Just steamed. Bhagaji taught me how to set up a steamer, you know, on the stove. I forget how we did it, but just like a pot. Darn, I can't remember how we did it. I'll have to think of that, how we did it. Yes, Prabhu.
You were talking about the book distribution in the online.
The what?
Book distribution in the
Yes.
And you say like, till now start growing and growing.
Oh yeah.
And I feel so inspired with your history, you know, because you travel with your husband and all your life you make this. And for example, in my case, I'm 10 years traveling, only making Harinam Sankirtan.
Yes.
And now I want to establish me, like bring down, but I don't want to make other business.
Right. Oh, you can.
Book distribution.
No, Prabhupada gave permission because you plan to become a grihasta. He gave permission that the grihastas should support their family by book distribution.
Yes,
You should do that.
I want to ask you about this because I don't want to live like long to the BBT, you know, because all these years we developed BBT Mexico, BBT different places of the world, no? Brazil.
Yeah.
And now I feel it's inspiring me so much because I was thinking I cannot live in Vrindavan because I don't know how it service, maybe only for brahmacharis or like this.
No, you
But I
do
don't-
book distribution.
I want like book distribution, but also like help BBT, you know, like give her money for BBT and like this. But I want to maybe if you can explain a little bit about this point because when your words I can feel like wow, this can be so nice. You know, like
You-
completely engage me in this.
You could do so much preaching here. You could set up tables all along the parikrama. We can get you a shop downtown. We can get you a shop at the Mathura train station. There's so many different options. And you don't have to worry about the 50% of BBT because we just give you the books at wholesale rate and you sell books at retail rate. So automatically everything is being taken care of for BBT.
Yes. And
It's perfect life.
you talked about many years I was traveling making universities. And
Yes.
universities, big preaching, you know.
Yeah.
2,000 books one day,
Right.
completely crazy. I want to also maybe I can coordinate with you or like this, like.
And they especially like foreign devotees to come to universities. Prabhupada told us at the same time, he gave so many instructions. He said, you should lecture in the universities because everyone will come to hear you because you're a foreigner. Yeah, so you would do very well with this university preaching here in India.
And also we make in the train, like we have 3 days in the train, and I make all the
Yeah,
boxes of the train.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
yeah,
600 books, like
right.
right now.
Yep.
But yes, I want to develop this and I want to continue with this mission, not like get married and make other things.
No,
like
you and your wife can.
Also, she makes
Of
some
course.
kind of these years,
Of
and
course.
we want like this.
That's what married life is for.
I feel inspired so much with your history because I say, oh, just I want like this. But you know, I can see that now, for example, it's not in the way of criticize, no? Like this, oh, my devotion is so not strong, but I tell to my Maharaj, like, give me some instruction. And he said, wake up early and chant Hare Krishna.
Perfect,
Okay,
perfect.
I make,
Yeah.
but what do you want? You want to go to some place, develop something, make something, what do you want?
You have this lifetime instruction, and when we were going out traveling and preaching, because there were no temples, I asked my husband to ask Prabhupada, could we have traveling deities? And Prabhupada said, my books are your deities. They are Shabda Brahman, they are transcendental sound vibration. You worship my books. So life is very simple for the grihastas when they're book distributors.
You don't make some book about this? Or something your experiences about Sankirtan, because it's so nice. I feel so much inspiration, you know. Like you tell, no, like no matter if your Guru Maharaj don't tell you directly.
You'll find me, I practically never talk about, that's why I want to start Krishna book tomorrow. I don't talk about myself. I like to talk about from Prabhupada's books.
But in this way of instruction of Srila Prabhupada is so nice, you know, because it's good when you see all of this constructed and like this, but I feel little bad, you know, like, okay, and what I can make for all
Yeah,
this,
what can you do? You can distribute Prabhupada's books. It's endless and unlimited.
I want this, maybe you can coordinate.
Yeah, sure, sure. Once the lockdown is over.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank
My-
you.
my life.
You fit right in here. Yes,
Just like in the temple we have stall book tables are there.
yeah.
So management one day they people should come to the book stall and take the book. And some devotees often people in between, so they don't like that you distribute books here.
No, they don't like that.
So
No.
it's nothing wrong if you say that you go and distribute outside. Sometimes devotees get disturbed why you're stopping us to distribute books in the
No, it's because it gets out of hand, and a lot of these people are unauthorized. That means they're not collecting for the temple; they're collecting for themselves. So that's why it has to be, while on the campus, it has to be under the control of the temple authorities, the book distribution. Not that anyone can just, start bothering and then the poor pilgrims, 20 people are, they're disturbed, yes. Because Prabhupada, he said this temple is for education, it's not for business. So we want to, when people come here, we want to teach them, not just try to get money from them. Okay.
Yes, but in this way I ask you this, not because, for example, our Sankirtan, all this thing was completely forbidden. Now we are thinking the same, like...
Yes,
like
of course,
for
definitely.
for the temple and then like this. But with your history, we can make some sketch
Yeah.
and...
You make your grihasta life successful that way.
Yeah, because the way is saying like everything, like other people has to make other stuff and it's not...
No. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah? Huh? Thank you.
How much time in a day in person?
5.5 months.